please, no.
He's like panicking. No, I want more. You got time for some more?
Yeah, I can do one more portfolio, I think.
Let's try and do at least one more and see if you still have time afterwards. Here's the next one.
Here. Oh yes. Okay. Oh man, this one's all lighting. Let me
So I'm not gonna help you here or give any input. This is all you. And then and then we can do the next one as well, so you can speed through everything before you go.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So, I mean, this is all lighting. So I'm curious. Lighting and color grading artists. So when I go through these, I guess my curiosity is immediately like, how much of this was made by the person? And of course, I'm assuming a lot of it is going to be Megascans and Marketplace because the focus is lighting and color grading. I am extremely poor in color grading. I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm doing in that territory, but it's something I started to actually just recently dig into. I think just scrolling through these overall, like just the few environments that we're looking at. Ooh, this one's kind of cool. This is nice. Let me go back to this one. Yeah, you want to say something?
No. I'll see. I'll just follow you as you scroll and let you go first. And then
yeah, okay.
I'm trying to stay out of this.
Yeah. So what I want to comment on is mainly composition stuff. So compositionally, like this one's quite strong. Like I really like this scene. I think of the sky being, I don't know. There's not anything interesting up there, and maybe that's a good thing because maybe we should be focusing on this. But framing wise, these are all quite good. This one is the one that stuck out to me just because you've got a clip here. This is one of those tangents again where it's like, oh, if you look up just a little bit higher, bring the camera physically down, but then tilt it up, you'll break that problem. Let me just scroll through here. So a lot of these are aesthetically pleasing, and framing wise, they're quite nice. When I'm just realizing the resolution difference on here. So making sure that you've got consistency in your resolution when you scale props. So if you're using a lot of props that are existing from other packages, it's really important to try to not scale them too much. I usually err on the side of don't go above or below 20%. Because what you want to be thinking about is the consistency of the resolution from object to object. Like I can see this, I can see the pixels in the texture. And then this bridge looks quite low res as well. There's certain, it's one of those rules that I don't think anyone really talks about. It's the main reason that texel density exists, is to try and maintain a consistent resolution across the board. So if everything was the same resolution as this bridge, you wouldn't call it out because it's all consistent, right? But it's something to keep in mind. It was because of texture streaming in Engine. Oh, interesting. That makes me think there's too many textures loading. I would have to see like what's happening in the background to know that.
If you have too much texture streaming, there's a command you can use. I think is r dot texture pool. You just increase the texture. You just increase the number in the command line, and it will fix the issue. But just message me. I'll give you the command.
Oh, interesting. So you basically expand the pool at which textures can like load into memory.
Yeah.
Is that artificially capped in UE5?
Yeah. Even UE4, this is the same problem. All my students have this buggy thing, so I have to make a video specifically explain. It's not a problem. You just need to expand it because everyone has the memory, but technically, if you just expand it, you should be able to do it. But also, if people are using, the what's this called? There's a slider. People, it's normally on 100, but people tend to do 200 to make the image sharper in Unreal.
Oh yeah, your resolution scaling.
Yeah, and that will also, cost a bit of resources when you do that. So
You can
So,
use the render queue.
Yeah, that's much better.
Because you can put the command in there. So at render, it'll fire the command. And then when you're not rendering, it'll just be what it is. Because I assume turning that up is probably pretty heavy.
Yeah, it shouldn't be any problem when they're using texture streaming, to be honest. It should be perfectly fine to, use it to enhance your work without these problems. I haven't had any problems yet. You can have 16 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte, as long as you don't go crazy, obviously. Should be good.
Yeah, I've seen the same resolution issues in some of the areas here. I feel like this is scale. I don't think this is... Like, I want to say that's scaling, but the thing I'll call out here is that fire is super red. Maybe you're going for a style approach, but I'm just watching you sip your coffee as I comment on lighting. Oh, this one's cool. Oh, this has a nice vibe to it. Roll through here. So when you do graffiti, remember that someone had to do it, even if it's not real. Think about, like, how did that person get up there, and how did they consistently, like, tilt sideways so cleanly? Usually there's a curve or an arc because of how our body works when we graffiti. Someone that's really good at tagging will be able to control that arc because they know how to position themselves. So you can actually imply how crappy a graffiti artist is by the way you draw their graffiti. So just think about, like, most graffiti is going to happen at, like, eye level, and if someone's being cheeky, it's nice and low, or cheeky nice and high, and like, how the hell did they do that? They must have brought a ladder, or a friend is lifting them up. Just a detail to think about. Man, there's some crazy stuff in here. Yeah, see, this is like that would require a very serious airbrush. Like, I don't know what head you would need to put on a spray can to pull that off. And drips in the decals make it really difficult to rotate them around. So, like, you want dynamic drips in your... So, like, no matter which way you rotate it, it's always pointing down. Yeah, this one's pretty cool. I like this one. I'm just gonna... Oh, nice. Yeah, and then playing with, like, different... Oh, that's kind of... That's cool. It's got a... There's something weird with the amount of glow above. Like, you feel like it should be clipping here, but I like the intention with that. So there's a lot of this gas station. Let me go back to the portfolio really fast. There's a lot of that gas station. I just want to comment on the making sure to, like, maybe not pad the portfolio. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but, like, those could all be part of the same post, right? You don't want to click through it too much, because I think what people will do is they'll go to the first one and they'll just they'll scroll through. Oh yes, Martin scene. Yeah, dude, this guy's crazy. They'll look at, like, this post and they'll be like, cool, and then they'll go to the next one and, like, yeah. If they see enough things they like, they'll stop. But if they're questioning, they'll continue forward because they're still curious. And if you get to a point where... This is kind of like how I perceive how people view portfolios. If they get to the gas station and you keep giving them the gas station, but with different lighting scenarios, they may just, like, they may stop here. And if there's something that's better that is behind it, maybe they'll never get to it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now. Do you want to jump in here?
Sure, if you want to jump in, that's not a problem. I think I'm not going to go through everything because there's a lot of work here, but I think generally speaking, the sky tends to be the brightest point. I think is one of the things I noticed. So, for example, if I do a quick share screen, I suppose I could do that. Let me just check. I'm accidentally showing the other stuff going on. Okay. So it's very basic things like this is your image. It's very flat. So every time I say flat, it's about values and contrast. So I would do this, I would be brightening up your focal point, making sure it's bright, the sky is brightening up, making things a bit darker, right? There's a huge difference in how you feel like it's alive. You feel it's daytime. You're feeling, okay, this is Genshin Impact. This is Tower Fantasy type of logic, I suppose. But it's really just how lighting is. You want to make sure this is the bright area, and then from there you deal with everything. You do not want to have this kind of level of feedback naturally, of visual things. It's doesn't necessarily have the punch, but you do this, you have a punch. Okay, it's you're starting to get this gradient you kind of need in every image. So I think that's the general notice I noticed in your portfolio is just the value needs to be there. It goes either dark or bright, and a lot of people when they do lighting struggle a little bit with getting that balance quite right. And when I look at the other pieces, it's really same principles, the range of the light. Sometimes it's about material because you're trusting the asset pack too much. When I do my mentorship and then the courses, we train the lighting artists to understand that you have to edit the material. Sometimes you can't trust everything, and it's the same with your other pieces that we share the screen, I suppose, just to give you a more visual feedback very quickly. It's the same with these pieces, it's flat because it doesn't have that punch line. Your brightest spot is your eye, which isn't necessarily possible even in real life. If you take a torchlight during daytime, it's going to get dimmer almost invisible during daytime, and the darker and darker it gets, the more brighter it will get. So if you're going to have something like this, I will obviously also make sure it hits the nose and a little bit of air and has some effect to it. But you can see there's the same thing here as well. It's kind of dim in comparison to everything else. So these kind of balances, I think, is a bit important. Punch the light a bit. Don't be afraid to kind of enhance things a little bit. People are very afraid of real light. What I do think you did pretty good here, I think, which is your latest piece. More or less, is you're showing you're comfortable with the hotspots. Meaning it's not white clipping, but you're comfortable pushing it. But then the balance is making sure it bounces around a little bit more, getting the colors right, perspective right. Because now you have a leading line going down, you have a leading line going this way, choice of camera. These things also play a very huge importance as a lighting and color grading artist. We still need to focus on these part as well to kind of enhance our presentation. And then you have to pay attention to foliages. They are very annoying, especially in Unreal 4 and 5. Generally, you have this highlight and sometimes it doesn't work well, so you want to turn it off if needed to kind of replicate real life a little bit. Because a lot of foliages have too much diffusion, it's called. What's it called? Subsurface scattering. A lot of people have too much of it, and that's not how this is not how it will work. This is two things. It's a shadow. Probably you downloaded the asset maybe, or you used the foliage, and the problem is it has a shadow off often or detailed shadow off, so you need to go in and you need to turn it on, because this is not possible even in real life. You have to see the shots, the shadows, and because you're doing a piece anyway, you can afford the frame drop for your presentation anyway. Same thing over here. I like that you have a light coming over, but again, you have to understand, and I'm not going to go into detail, but where actually fog exists and how fog actually works in real life is very important when you use this. And again, when you use fog like this, it's a good idea, but remember, the minute you put fog like this, you lose the depth of field, okay? Because you're putting it in front of the opening. So you're losing that contrast, the depth of field that exists because of the fog. And remember, when you use fog, it desaturates your color. So normally when I use fog, I have to change sheet a little bit because of artistic reason, I want to enhance the color back that I lose when it's very foggy. You also have a tendency to use a very unnatural red color or orange color. So that's something I would look into temperature, color temperature, just search for it and you'll get a bit more accurate color palette that's believable when it comes to your blue and white colors. Overall, you're not a terrible lighting and color grading artist at all, so don't worry about that. But there's obviously a lot more to work on. I like a lot of your stuff, but it's stuff like this that is I like to focus on. I like thinking a little bit about where you put the light. Where's the shadow? What are you highlighting? What's the focal point? What's the story? Unfortunately, it all pays a little bit of impact as a lighting and color grading artist. I'm trying to be very quick because I'm hoping to go through all the pieces. You're very creative, I can see, but again, if you have fog here, you need to have and you have a fog behind. That's not how fog works. It's not either front or back. It's either in the back and then you have a little bit in the front. You can't have fog in the middle of nowhere and then there's no fog anywhere else. You also want to have a point light here so it fills in the rest of the area. There's quite a few things, but again, I'm happy to help specifically lighting artists in our channel. And this, again, you can see the fog here. You can see there's a spotlight. You didn't widen the angle and you didn't do the inner angle sharp. You didn't do the outer angle sharp. So these are the things you need to pay attention to if your main income is going to be lighting anyway. Especially if you will send this to me as a job search, for example. These are the things I would pay attention to because it tells me if you understand light. It tells me if you understand color palette. It tells me if you understand how fog works. Because it takes a lot of your image loses depth when you do too much fog. So that's a general comment I have with most lighting artists. Stop using so much fog. It's cool, but it can ruin your image if you don't do it correctly, unfortunately. So
oh, sorry. Go ahead and finish.
No, go on.
I was just gonna mention I couldn't tell if you were using IES profiles on your lights.
So he was using, I think, in some it looked like he was using them.
Yeah.
He says yes as well, or he or she. I don't know
okay.
if it's she or he actually. I didn't notice the name properly, but yeah, it uses IES profile. But again, you need to set up that correctly as well. Again, exposure in EV. I cover that a lot in my mentorship as well. This is basic fundamental things I notice when you do this kind of lighting. But overall, I see you have a huge potential. Keep going. I really like the way you're doing creative color palette. I used to do that a lot as well when I started out, and then eventually I need to calm down a little bit and kind of understand the basics and do the fundamental stuff a bit correctly to persuade people that, hey, I know what I'm doing. And then I went back to this extreme color that you're doing now in some of my pieces. You see, I'm doing the same stuff now that I stopped doing a while back. And I think there's a lot of I can see there's a lot of fun with the way you do your lighting and a color palette. For example, before Jeremiah has to go. So I do the same thing as well, but again, I am doing it. I'm paying more attention to the color. I'm making sure that the light is in fact small. When you have this kind of cone, you can see there's an inner outer and inner cone angle controls. It's a bit sharp in the middle. I'm making sure it's very foggy, so it makes sense that it's foggy. I have leading line with the lights. There's a leading green light, which is very hidden, but it's there. And I'm making sure that it's the brightest spot coming from the back and all of these things. So there's nothing wrong with what you're doing in a creative sense. I like to do that kind of lighting myself. But yeah, there's a lot of nitty-picky things to keep in mind to make sure you have a well-balanced image, that even this chair is purposely lit a little bit and it goes kind of in the dark, even though it doesn't go. Why do I do that? Even though we are commenting in your feedbacks for all of you that it's black clipping, it's because the human brain fills in what that is. The human brain can tell this is a chair or a table. So that's when I will break these rules, is if the asset is somewhat obvious what it may or may not be. And that's when I add subtle fill light to kind of fill in the blanks. Okay, that's my general feedback.
That's a good portfolio.
Thank
It's
you.
nice, all the stuff that you're not yours. yours is good.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's a good portfolio.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's a good portfolio, and you're looking for work. I noticed. I'll pass you on actually, because you're obviously at least good enough to try some work. So it's a good portfolio. Do you have time for one more, Jeremiah?
I do not.
Okay,
It's getting late over here.
cool. Do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye. No, thank you for having me on here. It's pretty cool. We can do this again for sure. I just need to find an opportunity to do it. I know that we've planned this for, I don't even know, months.
Yeah,
We'll figure out how to overlap some more. But yeah, you guys know where to find me. I know that you've linked it in your Discord. I've linked your Discord and my Discord. I'll leave it at that. You guys can, if you want to find me, you can find me at the Dynasty Empire.
Cool.
I stare at that server probably too much, but that's okay. That's where I live these days.
I appreciate you teaming up, Jeremiah. I think it's very helpful, I think, for everyone as well to get your point of view and experience. It's at least quite, I mean, I already learned a couple of things, and that you're better in Photoshop in these things, so I need to steal your techniques. So
we can, I have portfolio reviews tomorrow. I have 4 of them, so maybe you can watch me Photoshop.
Yeah, I would love to see you use more Photoshop, because you don't really use that a lot, at least when I've been watching your streams.
It's on and off. It's really dependent on like what we're looking at.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. No, I'm hoping to see more. But yeah, we'll catch up a little bit. I'll let you go and you can have some fun. I will try and do 4 more very quickly. Because I see they are there in the queue waiting, so I will just quickly go through them, so they didn't wait and hang out for no reason if that was their intention. So I'd go through a little bit of them. Unfortunately, the next one is about material, so it's kind of your area.
Oh, get out of here! Are you gotta kick me out like you kick everyone out?
No,
it's your thing now.
You can leave on your own.
Oh my god! Fine. All right. I'll see you later. Thanks for having me. I'll see you guys. Let's do this.
You were never here.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
See ya. Bye. Thank you.